Hello everyone, my name is Carolin and this is my personal pedagogical framework. My beliefs about teaching and learning. I believe in an effective classroom the teachers should have sound topic knowledge and good relationships with their students. When feasible, an effective classroom uses hands-on materials and includes students in learning that is relevant to their lives as citizens of the 21st century. Students engage in collaborative work with other students, the teacher, and others beyond the school environment. An effective classroom has rules and expectations that have been developed collaboratively and students own and care for their classroom space. Assessments are carried out to guarantee successful learning and feedback will be provided to increase student autonomy. Every student will feel included and taking risks is encouraged. When teaching and learning are efficient, both students and teachers are satisfied and all students make progress. This is the introduction and explanation of my metaphor. As you can see, my metaphor picture is on the left-hand side. The curriculum planning is like the waterfall at the start of the stream. It gives the learning purpose and the what and the how. Instructional approaches are like the twists and turns in the stream. Beliefs about assessment are like the current that keeps the water flowing. Behavior management is like the riverbed and rocks to the left and right of the stream. They keep the water where it needs to be. And classroom culture is like the harmony between the waterfall, the water, the current, the riverbed, the rocks. Every component belongs and contributes. Curriculum planning is the first component in my personal pedagogy and pivotal to ensure students are progressing towards the overall goal of becoming successful 21st century citizens. As the waterfall at the beginning of the stream provides water, curriculum planning provides the what of learning. What are my students meant to learn according to the curriculum? What assessment am I including? How will I teach the students? How can I include digital technology purposefully into students' learning? Planning is not occurring in isolation, but will depend on where I am teaching and who my students are. Just like in the picture to the right, this waterfall looks different than a waterfall in the tropics. Research. Effective curriculum planning includes an understanding of what to teach, how to assess the learning, and how to teach. Technologies can significantly increase learning, but their impact is dependent on how they are employed. For effective curriculum planning, educators build a bridge between the subject matter and students' interests. Students' learning in the 21st century takes place in the community we belong to. Ordering the learning into logical steps aligns with cognitivism. It is also based upon the theory of constructivism. According to Piaget, learning builds upon prior understanding, and Vygotsky believed that learning is dependent on the location it occurs in. Curriculum planning is linked to the Australian curriculum, which provides the information on what to learn broken down by subject and year level. Theory into practice. In Year 6, students will engage in an inquiry unit about getting ready for high school. In English, they work towards the learning goal of informative texts by creating an end of primary school newspaper. Students will research the structure of newspaper articles and consult with experts such as a newspaper editor or journalist using technology such as iPads and Zoom. The second approach in my pedagogy is instructional approaches. I believe instructional approaches should vary, just like the water takes different directions winding through the twists and turns. In my classroom, students will engage in collaborative work, but also independent work. Some content will utilize the instructional approach of explicit teaching and the gradual release of responsibility, while other subjects, for example science, will use an inquiry approach. I believe hands-on learning is essential. I will choose the instructional approach that is most effective to content and student needs. With all methods, instructions are tailored to the needs of the students through differentiation. Research. Combining learning theories provides a considerably more comprehensive learning experience than each theory in isolation. Explicit teaching and collaborative work are effective approaches in education. Effective teachers have expertise across a variety of teaching strategies because learning can be individual and social, includes independent work and collaborative work. 90% of brains are atypical as highlighted by Jensen. emphasizing the pivotal need to cater for various needs through differentiation to ensure all students work within their zone of proximal development. Learning in the 21st century is regarded as involvement, cooperation, flexible roles, and intrinsic drive, rather than an assembly line, highlighting the need for an array of instructional approaches. Most of my approaches are situated within the constructivism theory. Inquiry learning and differentiation follow the learning theory principles of social constructivism as the learner needs are taken into consideration and learning is student-centered. Grouping during collaborative learning is guided by students' zone of proximal development. Piaget believed that students should be able to engage with concrete materials to support their learning. Explicit instructions start by role modeling, which aligns to the behaviorist theory of Bandara, where students learn by observing others. The various teaching approaches and differentiation link to the Alice Spring Declaration, because it puts student at the center of their education by emphasizing the necessity of fulfilling all learners' needs. Theory into practice. In the classroom, the teacher will use think, pair, share on a regular basis. This collaborative method allows students to first engage in an independent phase to gather knowledge and thoughts before sharing these thoughts with one peer and then the whole class. The teacher will provide the topic for the think, pair, share and then act as a timekeeper, listening in to student conversations before facilitating whole class discussion about the topic. This brings me to my third component, assessment. Assessment is another vital component of my teaching practice. I believe assessments are an integral component of an effective classroom because they will provide data on student learning and provide opportunity to give feedback. The current in the picture propels the water forward in the same way that assessments advance a students' abilities. I will conduct diagnostic, formative, and summative assessments. Assessments are authentic and will be marked using rubrics that will ideally be co-created with students. Feedback giving will be a shared responsibility between the teacher and peers. Research. In an effective classroom, diagnostic, formative, and summative assessments will be undertaken. Applying a deep learning approach in the 21st century requires regular evaluations about students' learning progress via assessments. In a constructivist classroom, students work on authentic tests and receive regular feedback in order to be active participants in the constructions of their knowledge. Effective feedback ensures skill development. If a teacher must link new learning to prior knowledge, assessments will provide data of where to start building from. Assessments are based on a constructivist theory that is students are actively part of building their knowledge by applying feedback students receive from assessments. This section directly relates to the Australian Professional Standards for Teachers, number 5.1, Teachers Assess Students' Learning, and 5.2, Teachers will provide feedback. Theory into practice. During a formative assessment in maths using measurements, students will be problem solving in groups how much wood the P&C must purchase for the new garden beds. The teacher will interact with the students using open-ended questions. Teachers and peers will provide feedback. As you can see in my little diagram on the bottom, the first three components are all interrelated and ensure effective learning. VIA has identified that curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment have a logical connection, which means that each is dependent on the others for successful learning to occur. This brings us to the fourth component, behavior management. Without effective behavior management, no learning will take place. Behavior management is much like the rocks on the side of the riverbeds. They keep the water focused on a direction, as does behavior management ensure the focus on learning. I believe behavior management should include rules and expectations in the classroom, as well as routines for student learning. As a teacher, I will role model good learning behaviors in the classroom at all times. Research. Classroom rules allow for a common understanding between teachers and students and ensure a safe learning environment for everyone. Routines will maximize learning time and teachers should role model appropriate behaviors in the classroom. Teaching in the 21st century classroom requires setting expectations. This component is linked to a meeting point between the theory of behaviorism and cognitivism, the social learning theory. According to Bendara, pupils will mimic teachers who are strong role models and who hold them accountable for their behaviour. This section links to the Australian Professional Standards of Teacher number 4, creating and maintaining a supportive and safe learning environment. Theory into practice. After second lunch, the teacher invites students into the classroom. Based on their routine and expectations, all students enter the room quietly, sit at their desk and colour in whilst the teacher reads aloud a book for 5 minutes. These behaviour expectations settle the students and get them in the right mindset for learning ahead. Which brings us to our final component, the classroom culture. Classroom culture is like the harmony between the waterfall, the water, the current, the riverbed, the rocks. Every component belongs and contributes to the river, just like everyone in the classroom contributes to learning. I believe that relationships are the stepping stone upon which all learning is based. I believe a successful classroom has a growth mindset and mistakes are welcome and everyone feels like they belong. Teachers and students are co-learners and co-creators of knowledge, and the teacher has high expectations of all students. Research. Human relationships are pivotal in deep learning because they serve as the foundation for developing trust. A teacher's role is beyond providing content, but to ensure students' positive emotional state, which leads to improved learning and behaviour. An effective 21st century classroom fosters a community of learners, and students develop grit, tenacity and perseverance. This component links to humanism. The theorist Maslow believed that students' most basic needs must be met first to allow for a state of social and emotional well-being where learning can occur. It also aligns with the theory of cognitivism, as having a positive classroom culture ensures the brain is in the right state to commence learning. And of course, this part links to the student well-being framework, which promotes student well-being, safety and positive relationships, but also the Code of Ethics for Teachers in Queensland, as it states teachers demonstrate care by committing to student well-being. Theory into practice. Every morning, the teacher will check in with students' emotional state of the day. During roll call, students respond to their name with a colour, green, orange or red. The colour is associated to their feelings, which allows the teacher to provide extra emotional support if needed, or show just a little bit more tender love, care and patience on specific days for specific students. As you can see now on the right, my pedagogical framework is complete. Classroom culture and behaviour management are the pillars for an effective learning environment. Curriculum planning, assessments and instructional approaches are like beams placed on top, providing more detail about the what and how of learning. In my placements, I have learned that teacher mastery in managing behaviours and building a positive learning environment is the key component for all other learning. Strengths and limitations. I feel the strengths of my pedagogical framework is that it is student-orientated, it uses assessment and curriculum planning well, and it has shown flexibility depending on student needs. I also believe it shows that I emphasize student well-being and belonging. My weakness is that there's no mention of collaborative work with parents or colleagues. It does not mention specific the inclusion of students with disabilities, and it could also provide more information about technology use in the classroom. I believe a personal pedagogical framework is a working document, and I will add and adjust as I become more skilled and experienced. In conclusion, I believe my personal pedagogy is explained well by the picture on the bottom left corner. My belief about the 5 components of curriculum planning, instructional approaches, assessments, behaviour management and classroom culture all contribute to my teaching practice, just like the waterfall, rocks and plains contribute to the harmony in this picture. Thank you so much for listening, and please feel free to ask me any questions that might have come up. These are my references. Thank you.